If you're a firstborn daughter, let's play a little game. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I'd like you to just note how many of these questions you say yes to. If you need some time to get a pen and a paper, press pause, get a pen and a paper, or just somewhere where you can note down how many of these you said yes to. So every time you say yes, maybe make a note and then, or draw a mark or something, and then come back and see how many you said yes to. Okay, are we ready? Let's go. First, do you ever forget to eat because you are so busy? Do you struggle with anxiety? Do you downplay your achievements? Someone says, "What do you do?" And you say, "Oh, I just run a small agency in 5 African countries." Do you celebrate other people but rarely celebrate yourself, or find that you throw parties and stuff for other people, but people don't always return the favor? Like people don't throw you surprise parties? Do you find it weird when people throw themselves big parties like their 40th celebration and they do it themselves, right? And invite people to celebrate them? Do you like order and are you a perfectionist? Do you like when things are perfect, labeled well, in the right place? Do you feel good when you are needed by people? So let's say you were in a relationship with someone who didn't really need you. Would you feel a bit uncomfortable with that? Do you say yes a lot of the times when you actually mean no? Or you say yes, then you get resentful later, or you wonder, why am I going to this thing? Or I don't really want to go to this thing. Do you go over and above in your job to please people? Let's say you get a client. It's really important, more than average, more than normal, for you to do a great job. Like you see, most people kind of just do the best they can and they're okay if things don't work out. But for you, it has to be flawless. Do you laugh at people's jokes, even if they aren't that funny? Do you struggle to know what you really want? Do you struggle with same age relationships? Do you absolutely hate to fail? Do you find it hard to fire people? And last but not least, are you a leader? Are you a CEO? Are you head of department? Were you a leader in high school? Are you a leader in your church, in your friend group, at home? Basically, are you a leader? Okay, now I want you to pause and count how many of these you've answered yes to, and then come back. All right, you're back. If you answered yes to over 8 of these, do yourself a huge favor. Keep watching this video because your mind is going to be blown, and that is not an overpromise. Today, we're diving into something that has shaped so many of us women who are firstborn daughters without even realizing it. Everything I just listed right now, those aren't random personality traits. They're part of an eldest daughter syndrome, but what I call the firstborn daughter configuration. A set of behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that come from our unique position in our families. So let me break it down for you. Why we develop these specific traits, how this identity shapes how we show up in relationships, the deeper wounds that many of us carry, and most importantly, how to heal and transform, but not lose your firstborn superpowers. So let's dive right in. What does it mean to be a firstborn daughter? In many ways, if you're watching this and you're a firstborn daughter, you have been born into a role before you even understand what that role means. And I'm hoping by sharing this that if you're still young and you're not married, you don't have kids yet, that this is going to help you so much in understanding yourself and being able to avoid a lot of mistakes that I have made myself. We are what I suppose in the psychology world is called parentified. Now, it's not a premise of only firstborns, but it happens a lot more disproportionately to firstborn daughters. We are parents without children. I remember from a young age, I had responsibilities that shaped my identity. I felt responsible for my brother's school fees, my sister's school fees and well-being. We were in a foreign country. And don't get me wrong, my parents helped as much as they could. My dad is amazing. My mom was great. But they also had their limits at the time. And I remember thinking, I absolutely have to get a job. not for me, but for my responsibilities. So when I was working, I'm getting a little bit emotional saying this, that's weird. But when I was working, it strikes me now at 42, when I've had the time to pause and think back, it was, I was pushed by a sense of, if not me, then who? Now, that might sound normal to a lot of you who go through this, but think about it. Think about an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old being responsible for others. It's just not normal. I remember sharing this with someone I was coaching, and something that they shared with me stood out. When they were 10, their mom had to run an errand, and before leaving, the mom said to her, "You're the oldest, so you need to be responsible." And those words became her mantra. I am the responsible one. Now, let's talk about this configuration, because it does create some incredible strengths in us firstborns generally. But today I'm talking specifically about firstborn daughters as it relates to my experience as well. We tend to be natural leaders. That's why so many firstborn daughters end up in charge. Highly responsible. You forget to eat because you're so busy taking care of business. Detail oriented. Hello, perfectionism. And achievement focused. We hate failure with a passion. But as I will show you when it comes to relationships, the cost of hating failure with a passion can be absolutely devastating. So, strengths, other side of that coin, come with shadows. That responsibility often turns into anxiety, that leadership often means struggling to put yourself first, and that achievement mindset can make you feel like you are never, ever doing enough. If this sounds familiar, if you're nodding along right now, welcome, you're in the right place. Gather round. Being a firstborn daughter fundamentally shapes how we relate to others. There's this fascinating dual role we play in families. We are children to our parents, but often become mini parents to our siblings. In my romantic relationships, I've noticed how quickly I slip into caretaker mode. One of my partners once said to me, "You're not the CEO of the universe, you know." And I was like, "What?" It was a wake up call in many ways, because I realized that I was treating him more like someone I needed to take care of than an equal partner. I worried about him. I thought about him if he had eaten. I mothered him in many ways. And to many men, I think, the right man anyway, that can be a bit of a turnoff, right? Remember, I asked you one particular question earlier on. I said, do you say yes when you mean no? That's a firstborn people pleaser in action. And that's why you people please even in your relationships. If you critically analyze, and I have nothing to back this up, but in a small study I've seen of my fellow firstborn daughter friends, disproportionately, most of us tend to date men much older. Because we're so used to being the responsible one, we struggle with same age relationships, because equal partnerships equals unfamiliar territory. So you're either dating much older or much younger. Interesting, right? And people pleasing in action means you're so used to accommodating others' needs that you often lose touch with your own desires. Typically, firstborn daughters don't really know what they really want. So they're very good, and here's the irony, they're very good at picking up what other people want. They're very good intuitively at knowing what their partners want, what their boss wants, what their friends want. But when they have to pause and someone says, what do you really want? Not what do you think other people want for you, but what do you really want? They struggle. And then laughing at jokes that aren't funny, classic people pleaser move. You're conditioned to make other people feel comfortable, even if it's at your own expense. You didn't find the joke funny. Technically, you shouldn't be laughing. People confuse this to be like you're sucking up. You're not sucking up. You're used to this. You've been conditioned to this. This is how you've survived in the world. These are what we call maladaptive behaviors. So let's talk about some deeper patterns as to what's causing this. Some firstborn wounds, if you will. So behind these traits I've described are what psychologists call developmental wounds, emotional patterns that form in childhood but then continue to affect us as adults. So here are some 3 common wounds that firstborn daughters carry. First is the mother wound. As a firstborn daughter, you often have a complicated relationship with your mother. Some women are expected to be confidants to their mothers, helpers, sometimes even the mother's emotional support. This can blur that parent child boundary in ways that are confusing and painful. For some women, your mother might be quite distant. So she's not like emotionally connecting with you that much. So you have to overcompensate in that space. I remember again this friend I was coaching. When she then turned 13, her mother started sharing really adult problems with her, financial concerns, relationship issues. She started talking about how her daughter's father was a dog, and you should never undress your partner to your child like that. It's just wrong. They don't have the cognitive ability to process what you're saying. But I won't digress. And at the time, she says she felt special, she felt trusted, but realizing now that this was parentification, being given an adult role before you are ready for it. Then, mother wound, let's talk about the father wound. For many firstborn experiences, it's either an overly strict father or an emotionally distant one. So you become the standard bearer, expected to set the example. But I would say perhaps the deepest wound is that wound of responsibility, carrying the weight of others' expectations, often at the expense of truly knowing who we are beneath all these roles that we play. Now, remember from our list, I asked a couple of questions that were very similar. Do you downplay your achievements? Do you rarely celebrate yourself? Do you find it weird when other people hold big parties in honor of themselves? And this is key because I always used to find it so strange when someone would throw a party for themselves. Like, oh, I'm throwing a 30th for myself. You're invited. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. Because in my world, in my set of lived experiences, in the story that was running through my brain, I couldn't even begin to imagine how I would stop, pause everything, spend money and time, and invite people to celebrate me. But it's perfectly normal for me to celebrate others. And that is so interesting because these wounds don't mean that our parents were terrible people. No, not at all. Okay? It just means that we feel guilty taking the spotlight because we've been conditioned to put other people first. Most parents are doing the best with what they have and what they know, but understanding these patterns is what helps us heal them. So, segueing into the healing journey, how do you heal these firstborn daughter patterns? How do you keep your strength while releasing habits that no longer serve you? Well, first, you need to recognize that the role you played in your family of origin doesn't have to define you forever. You can be responsible without carrying the world on your shoulders. And this is where I bring a very personal example here of how, when you're a firstborn daughter and there's no son above you, ideally you are the man to your father because you are the person who's essentially responsible for legacy. So now you're playing two roles. You've got to continue the legacy of your father, but you've also got to honor the legacy of your husband and your home. So you're kind of caught in between these two. And it's so interesting because healing means being able to balance these two without losing yourself and your identity and honoring yourself. Because if you lose yourself and your identity, depression, autoimmune diseases, always saying no, burnout, absolute exhaustion, being a terrible mother, ironically, when you want to be a great mother because you're always snapping at your children, you're irritated because you don't understand where your journey started and how to heal yourself. So, for me, what was so important and so mind blowing when I found out about this, ironically, through a fantastic YouTube video, and I'll give credit in the comment section because that video just opened my mind up so much. What helped me immensely was actually knowing that even though in other areas of my life I had learned about my people pleasing habits, I'd learned about not putting myself first, I'd learned about not having boundaries, but when I finally connected it to who I was, a firstborn daughter, everything clicked. And it now made sense because at times it's like you feel like when you're going through this healing journey, when you are learning about yourself and dealing with your issues, you're getting bits and pieces of the puzzle. But this one felt like it was configured for me. Someone understood me and my challenges as a firstborn daughter, which was essentially my first identity. Before I became a CEO, before I became a people pleaser or someone with weak boundaries, I was first, pun not intended, born daughter. So, some practical steps that have helped me and others that I've coached who are firstborn daughters is learning to say no without the guilt. Remember that question, saying yes when you mean no? It's so, so critical. Celebrating yourself. These days, I've gone the other side. I do one thing and I sit there and celebrate myself. If I feel like going to the bathroom, I no longer postpone it. I used to actually sit there working on my laptop and I need to pee. And I'm like, no, I gotta finish this. Self care starts with simple, silly sounding things like that. I now go to the bathroom and I sit there and I relieve myself. I take time for myself because I have self rejected subconsciously so much in my life that it is shocking. Because you put everything first. You put your family first. You put your business first. You put your friends first. You put causes first. And you are the one giving, 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 giving. But nobody explained it from this firstborn daughter wound place for me. I've released perfectionism. I'll walk into the house, it's not that clean. Very hard for me, by the way. And I'm just like, okay, today is that day. But baby steps, it starts a little bit at a time. Embracing good enough as actually good enough is tough, but you can do it. And regularly asking yourself, what do I actually need in this moment? See, the problem with the big question, what do you want, is that it's so big. You can't answer it. But if you get used to asking yourself, what do I want in this moment? It's more manageable. Like, what do I want in this moment right now? I want to connect with you. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to forget everything else. After this, I'm a bit hungry. I might eat. But asking myself what I want in every single minute of every moment has changed the way my brain is wired and how I'm configured. That helps me set boundaries. It helps me say no. So even when someone is cracking a joke, I literally go, what do I want? I want to be true to myself. It's not funny. And I won't die if I don't laugh. If they don't like me, it's not the end of the world. Right? So, so powerful. So, a powerful, powerful realization for me was understanding I don't have to abandon my firstborn strengths to heal my firstborn wounds. I can be responsible and ask for help. I can be a leader and be vulnerable. I can achieve and rest. That's a biggie for me. Even when I was resting, I had to be actively resting. What does that mean? I either had to be jogging or horse riding or doing like my idea of relaxation was activity. Like just lying there and doing nothing and looking at the ceiling was just foreign. And to be honest, it's still hard for me. So I'm still getting through it. Okay. So understand this, being a firstborn daughter is both a challenge and a gift. The very experience that created our wounds also forged our greatest strengths. We are very reliable. We are giving to a fault. We are extremely empathetic. Remember what I asked you? I said, do you find it hard to fire people? Yes, because we are responsible for people. So, how do you fire someone if you feel responsible for everybody and their well being? It's difficult. Do you see? So, revisiting some of those traits, right? Being a CEO or a leader, that's your natural leadership ability shining through. So, the goal isn't for us to stop being firstborn daughters, it's to be one consciously, keeping what serves you, transforming what doesn't. So if this video resonated with you, you're definitely not alone. There are millions of us firstborn daughters figuring this out together. Drop a comment and share which traits hit home for you. How many did you say yes to or no to? If you found this valuable, please share it with other firstborn daughters in your life, your friends, sisters, or colleagues who might be experiencing these patterns without understanding why. Because when I understood it, I felt seen, validated, valued, and I was able, because I now understood it, I was then able to heal myself, or at least start the process of healing. And don't forget to subscribe for a lot more content. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for sharing today's journey. with me.